All right, we're gonna try and make a quick video here on utilizing Garmin's analog Autopilot interfaces with a legacy Autopilot. So in this installation, we've got a GNC 355 as well as a KX155 Navigator, dual G5s, and then we've got the Piper Autocontrol 3B. Just the very, very basics of this installation. If you want to be flying a heading, that's kind of the default, the way it comes up. So you would steer your heading bug. Anybody who's familiar with G5 knows that. Your knob is going to be up to the heading. Previously, what was the heading position, now it's both heading and GPS steer. Hopefully you can see that. And then you just simply turn both knobs up. So that puts the autopilot on, puts it in heading mode, which means it's taking commands from heading, and then because we're on heading, it's taking it from this device. Okay, so if we want to go to GPSS steering, we had tapped into here, we'd select GPSS. Now we're taking steering information from the GNC 355 as interface through the G5. To go back to steering off a heading, we would want to set our heading to what ATC had told us to fly or whatever we're desiring, and then we need to go in and deselect GPSS. It's kind of the only gotcha that'll get people sometimes. Okay, now talking a little bit more about nuts and bolts, just to help you conceptualize the way this system interfaces. Basically, this legacy, it's a Piper Autocontrol 3B, which is really just a Sentry, I believe it's Sentry 2B. Don't get hung up on that. But anyways, the basic Autopilot is really just this AP on off and the wing leveler. Okay, so that's controlling the servo back underneath the seat. When you turn heading mode on, now it's going to control the servo based off of heading coming from a directional gyro. However, if you have a radio coupler installed, heading mode really should say radio coupler, and this is radio coupler. The radio coupler then allows you to select either heading coming from a directional gyro or heading and course information coming from a legacy radio. So in this case, it's this KX155. Some installations will have a knob down here that allows you to select either nav 1, 2, or even a Loran, I believe this aircraft originally had. So when you with this installation, you do have to maintain your attitude, your vacuum driven attitude indicator. The Autopilot requires that, so unfortunately you don't get to get rid of your vacuum system even though you've got a dual G5 installation. It's kind of a small price to pay compared to the big spend of a GFC 500 or another more performant Autopilot. And then I guess the final thing to say on this installation, it's pretty simple. The way it works, the way it controls from the Garmin avionics to the radio coupler. Basically, it gets the GAD29B, so Garmin's interface box. It gets an AC reference voltage, so that's going to come off the radio coupler, and then it just simply has a heading error that it inputs into the plug that previously was plugged into the back of the DG. There's one little termination that you have to do as well, but that's basically it. So again, when you're on heading, it's just all it's doing is getting analog inputs coming from the GAD29B plumbed into where previously your DG was. So that's it. An important thing to know, and was the case in this installation, the Garmin manual, bless their souls, they probably didn't have the time to check every single derivation of Autopilot installations and across the spectrum of Sentries and Cessna and Piper, etc. Certainly for this, for the Sentry Autopilots, the configuration that you use when you set up the G5 relative to the flight controls, so you'll go through this configuration setup, right? You're setting it up. It has to relate to so the wiring is the same for most of them, but that wiring and the configuration mode has to relate to the radio coupler that you use. If you look at Garmin's installation manual, what you're going to see is that they've got a bunch of different part numbers, which are all major and minor revisions of this radio coupler. It's something like 1CP388 or something like that with dash numbers, etc. So your installation needs to align with the radio coupler that you have. The Garmin manual for a Piper Autocontrol 3B had one one part number listed for the radio coupler. That was not the part number that was listed here. We followed those instructions, configured it, and when we went up to do our maintenance check flight, the gains were all way too high. And so we went back, looked through the manual, and found the radio coupler part number that more closely related to the one that was installed in this aircraft, and then which, you know, was in accordance with the type certificate. So anyways, we went in there and selected that configuration, and then that gain set flies the aircraft wonderfully. So the Autopilot works great in both heading mode and GPS steering. Honestly, it's as good as flying the GFC 500. Obviously, we just don't have vertical navigation. That's basically the gist of it. Hopefully that helps in, you know, you determining if you want to go ahead with this installation on your aircraft.